Parents called me a loser in front of my kids, so I stopped paying their bills. 3 months later, they were begging me to come back. I, Sarah, 34 years old, never thought my own parents would be ashamed of me. The funny thing is, I wasn't some criminal or failure. I worked hard every day, raised 2 wonderful children as a single mother, and somehow still found a way to help my parents financially. For almost 6 years, I paid part of their mortgage. I covered their utility bills whenever they fell behind. When Dad's truck broke down, I paid for repairs. When Mom needed dental work, I paid for that too. My younger sister Emily, meanwhile, was the golden child. Everything she did was amazing. Everything I did was somehow wrong. And yet I was the one keeping my parents afloat financially. I told myself it didn't matter. I wasn't helping because I wanted praise. I was helping because they were family. Then Thanksgiving happened, and everything changed. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, Mom called me. "Emily's family is coming this year," she said. "Great," I replied. My kids were excited. They loved seeing their cousins. For once I thought maybe we'd have a normal holiday. I even offered to bring most of the food. Mom happily accepted. Over the next few weeks I spent hundreds of dollars preparing. Turkey, desserts, side dishes, drinks, everything. The day before Thanksgiving, my daughter Lily asked me a question. "Grandma likes us, right?" I laughed. "Of course she does." But the hesitation in my voice bothered me, because deep down I wasn't completely sure. The next morning we packed the car and drove 2 hours to my parents' house. The kids were excited the entire drive. As we pulled into the driveway, I noticed Emily's luxury SUV parked outside. Of course, Dad had helped her buy that. The same Dad who claimed he couldn't afford his bills. We walked toward the front door carrying trays of food. Before I could knock, I heard voices inside. Mom, Dad, Emily, they were talking. Then I heard my name. I froze. "Do they really have to come?" Emily asked. My stomach tightened. Mom sighed. "I wish they wouldn't." Dad laughed. "They'll probably show up looking miserable as usual." My daughter looked up at me. I hoped that was the end. It wasn't. Emily said, "Honestly, my kids shouldn't spend Thanksgiving around losers." Then Dad answered. The words still make me angry. "You're right," he laughed again. "Your sister's children shouldn't have to see losers like Sarah and her kids." The room exploded with laughter. My kids heard every word, every single word. Lily's face fell instantly. My son Jacob looked confused, then hurt, then embarrassed, and something inside me snapped. I opened the front door. The laughter stopped immediately. The silence was deafening. Mom looked terrified. Dad suddenly found the floor fascinating. Emily turned pale. None of them expected me to hear it. I set the tray of food on a nearby table, slowly, calmly. Then I looked directly at Dad. "You don't have to worry anymore." Nobody spoke. I continued. "My kids won't be around losers." Dad swallowed. "Sarah, we didn't mean—" "No," I held up my hand. "You meant exactly what you said." Mom stepped forward. "Honey, stop." For the first time in my life, I interrupted her. "I spent years helping this family." Nobody moved. "I paid bills." Silence. "I fixed emergencies." More silence. "I showed up every time someone needed help." Dad looked uncomfortable. Emily stared at the floor. Then I said the sentence that changed everything. "Starting today, I'm done." Mom blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean the money stops." Suddenly, everyone looked up. Interesting, that got their attention. Dad's face changed immediately. "What money?" I laughed. "The audacity." "The mortgage payments." Silence. "The utility bills." More silence. "The emergency cash." Mom's eyes widened. Dad looked nervous. Emily looked shocked. I picked up my purse. "Since we're losers, I'm sure you'll figure it out yourselves." Then I turned around. My kids followed me. Nobody stopped us. Nobody apologized, nobody ran after us, and honestly, that hurt more than anything. For the first week, nobody contacted me. Then reality arrived. Dad called first. I didn't answer. Mom left 6 voicemails. I ignored them. Then the text messages started. At first, they were angry, then frustrated, then desperate. 3 weeks later, Dad finally admitted the truth. Without my financial help, they were struggling badly. Apparently, Emily wasn't contributing. What a surprise. The golden child suddenly disappeared whenever money became involved. 1 month later, Mom called from a different number. I accidentally answered. "Sarah, please." Her voice sounded exhausted. "We need to talk." I remained silent. "The mortgage is behind." Still silent. "The electric company sent a warning." I waited. Then she finally asked, "Can you help us?" The irony was incredible. The same people who called me and my children losers now wanted my money. I took a deep breath. Then I asked one question. "Did you apologize to Lily?" Silence. "Did you apologize to Jacob?" More silence. I already knew the answer. "No," Mom whispered. "Then we're done here," and I hung up. Over the next 2 months, things got worse for them, much worse. Dad ended up selling his truck. Several credit cards were maxed out. Emily still refused to help. Apparently, family sacrifice only worked when I was the one sacrificing. Then one Sunday afternoon, there was a knock on my door. I opened it. Mom and Dad stood there. For the first time in years, they looked defeated, older, tired, smaller somehow. Dad spoke first. "We were wrong." I said nothing. Mom started crying. "We hurt you." Still nothing. Then Dad surprised me. He turned toward my children who were standing in the hallway, and he apologized, a real apology. No excuses, no blame shifting. No, if you felt hurt, just accountability. For several minutes, nobody spoke. Finally, Dad looked at me. "We don't deserve forgiveness." I appreciated the honesty. "Probably not," I replied. He nodded. "You're right." Then Mom quietly added something that stunned me. "Emily hasn't spoken to us in weeks." I wasn't surprised. The moment money disappeared, so did she. The golden child vanished, just like I always knew she would. Meanwhile, the daughter they called a loser was still standing, still raising her children, still paying her bills, still building a life without them. I never resumed paying their expenses. That chapter was over. But eventually, I allowed them back into our lives. Slowly, carefully, on my terms. Trust takes years to build and seconds to destroy. They learned that lesson the hard way, and so did I. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't yelling. It isn't revenge. It isn't proving someone wrong. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply stop rescuing people who don't appreciate you. The moment I stopped funding their disrespect, everything changed. They finally saw my value, not because I demanded it, but because they had to live without it. And that Thanksgiving they tried to humiliate me. Ironically, it became the day I finally stopped being their backup plan and started being my own priority. The best revenge wasn't watching them struggle. The best revenge was watching my children grow up knowing that nobody, not even family, gets to treat them like they're worth less than anyone else. And that's a lesson worth far more than any mortgage payment I ever made.